Okay, hi everyone. How are you tonight? Thanks for coming out. I'd say in the rain, but I guess that stopped. So anyway, I am Carla Girardi-Lowe. I'm the president of Redwood Heights Association. So really happy that you all came out to spend some time with us this evening. And I see some familiar faces and some new faces. So really happy that you're with us today. Hope you guys got some pizza. There's plenty, so please don't hesitate. Diamond Slice. You guys haven't been to Diamond Slice.
Keep it local.
Kind of our regular thing. So anyway, but before we dive in, I want to take a moment to thank our incredible board. We are an all-volunteer organization, so everything we do, from events to advocacy, et cetera, is kind of powered by the community, neighbors, friends, et cetera, who care deeply about Oakland and our community. So thank you, it really does mean a lot. So helping us this evening, guiding us through this adventure, is our moderator, Kevin Scott, who also serves as the RHA secretary, going on 10 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, all right, so we have a lot of great information tonight. We're going to take a quick look back at the association and what we've been doing this year, over the last 10 years, and some updates from one of our committees. And then we're excited to welcome our two guests, so Oakland City Auditor Michael Houston and District 4 Councilmember Janani Ramachandran. Yeah. And then we will finish up with your questions. So there are some note cards on the table, so you can just jot your questions down so you remember them by the end. And then we're just going to do kind of some card shuffling and ask questions. Anyway, so that's it. I am turning this over to Kenan to run the show. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Give it up for Carla, our president. So throughout today, as is always the case with our annual meetings, the goal is really to build community, and that happens on an individual, human-to-human basis. So as we're going through tonight, do feel free to talk to your table partners, do explain to them where maybe you live in the area, how comfortable you feel about your location, where that is, where in the neighborhood you are, and something that you particularly love about Oakland. I loved our proximity to the Redwoods. I love our proximity to Leona Heights, and I love the way that my family and I can just get out there into some fresh air, into some beautiful redwood groves with waterfalls, and then still go to downtown in 10 minutes. That is a beautiful part about our neighborhood and something I love. Before we get started, I'm going to be quick, just so you guys know, because I'm not the star of the show. We have two stars. But I want to introduce our amazing group of board members. So as I say your name, please stand up. Carla, I won't make you stand up because you were just here. So first, give it up for our president, Carla Girardi-Lowe. Thank you. As you see, I'm the secretary, 10 years running. If you ever want to see our notes, they're all public records, so check that out. Shout out to our treasurer, Rick Levy over there. Yes! And if you don't know, our board is powered by a mega group of Marys. So I'm going to run through our Marys. First off, the incomparable Mary Gregory, who's been welcoming you in. Serving you more than just food, but definitely her opinion on everything amazing, is Mary Pizzuto in the back over there. And I'll take a quick dramatic pause for a non-Mary. Our other board member, Richard, who is not here today because he's in Arizona. Don't want to cause any alarms, okay? He's just in Arizona, he is fine. But before that, I want to go back then to our final Mary, because today's special, it is her birthday. So please put it together to Mary Pryor, y'all, working on her birthday, volunteering on her birthday. And as Carla mentioned, we are now running on 10 years of a new RHA. And throughout that time, we have had a bevy of incredible events put on together by this mighty group that you just saw today. And so these are some of them. If you know me, you know Movies in the Park is one of my favorites, and I will always be there to make sure you don't get rained by random sprinklers. But in part of that is a special shout out to our volunteers who come out to make things like the maker events super popular and really reach a lot of our kids in our community. but also our neighbors who come out together to do some of our smaller, more events. So this is a reflection of what we've done, hosted 3 movies in the park. We've organized 2 live music in the park events. So during the summer, if you didn't get to see that, get ready for next summer. We'll be back with more music in the parks. Shout outs to Mary G for getting us 3 blood drives this year, all full to capacity, all really, yeah, please put that together. We know the effects of giving blood. We provided an educational forum online with Chief Holly Joshi of the Oakland Department of Violence Prevention, really starting to understand how they're looking at the root cause analysis of violence, not just at the top level, but at the grassroots level. What are we all doing, human to human, to support each other? And also we had, like I said, an amazing event. Shout outs to Rochelle Jacobs for the park improvement project that she sparked with our maker event. So there will be a new mural that will go up as soon as Brett braves the ladder and puts it up out front. And then we also have the mandalas outside that will be lining the fire road. So always trying to find ways is this RHA to give back to our community, to engage all of our community, all ages, and really providing more safer spaces, but also community engagement spaces and places for us to come together. I'll end on something that's coming up really soon. You'll maybe get it in your mail if you live close to here, but we've been working diligently for about 3 years on getting a skate park built in our own park in the back area right here. And we are at the final processes of getting that all approved through a conditional use permit. There's a lot you can learn. It's on our website, RHA Oakland. But I'll just say it's a personal project of mine that I love, and I'm so excited that we'll be able to bring that to you soon. Whew, thank you. That's a lot, right? We're like 8 people? 6? How many people are we? 7. So yeah, that's a lot for 7 people. Thank you to all my fellow board members. We also have some wonderful committees. So if there's a way that you want to get involved and you don't want to be on the board, these committees are a great opportunity for you to give back to the neighborhood without the heavy commitment of a monthly meeting. No, we weren't about that. First, we had our Welcome Neighbor group. Is Lily here to talk about it? Lily, thank you, Lily. Everybody put your hands together for Lily Cook, who's going to come and tell us a little bit about the Welcome Neighborhood group.
Hi, I'm Lily Cook. I'm one of the people on the Welcome Neighbor Committee. And this committee started 2 years ago after the board gave a lot of support for starting this. And then after some generous support from the board, Carla and one of the mayors, we put this together. And basically what the committee does is we go out to homes that that have just been occupied, whether it's people have bought the home or they rented it, and a group of volunteers take a packet, like this packet here, and it's inside it, it's got information about local stores, it's got information about the parks up the hill, it's got information about welcome letters from Carla, from a lot of other people, the principal of this local school. It's got a lot of information about CORE, about emergency preparedness, about other governmental agencies, and it gives all of this information as well as what RHA is doing and what some of the different organizations, different things, all those wonderful things are up there. There's more information if you want to see more information about this. Is on the website of the Better Community. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So there's 5 readers. There's Tim Iglesias, he's in charge of the group, and he's not here. Iceland.
Oh.
Yeah, Iceland.
That's nice.
There's Margaret Mura, Sarah Vandershalny, Joan Bonzi, and myself. And we give these packets to new neighbors, and sometimes people bring different flowers or cookies or something like that. And I just have to say that, I mean, 100% of the time people are, number one, surprised that anyone's coming to their door to welcome them, and very happy. And it's a really neat opportunity to get to know people and for people to just find out what a great organization, what a great neighborhood it is. As of today, we've gone to about 80 different neighbors, and in addition to sort of just spreading goodwill and building social capital, it also can maybe get some people. So we kind of direct them here to you guys. Anyway, we'd love to get more careers. The commitment only involves a 1-hour orientation, and then you visit a few neighbors at addresses you select at the time you want. So, I mean, I've seen probably, 6 people in the last 6 months. So it's not a big commitment at all. And it's fun. So if you have any more interest in it, see me or look on the website, you can find out about it. Is that okay? Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you. Thank you for that spirited introduction. Kenneth, yes, excuse me. And thank you, Redwood Heights Association. Super glad to be here this evening. And thank you for letting me indulge in providing a little overview of the city auditor's office. Not a lot of, well, we're one of the smaller offices around the city. We like to take advantage of it about ourselves. I think it's an important function, so thank you. So the dream team, that's us, right? So there's 10 of us. As you know, the city of Oakland has got a $2.2 billion budget, a big municipal agency that provides a wide array of services. And this is the team, 10 of us, plus our public policy fellow, bottom right corner, who's looking into that, providing critical oversight. I already said we have a full range. We have oversight. We're called the city auditor's office, so we obviously do audits, and we do those audits in accordance with government audit standards. We also do whistleblower investigations. We do independent ballot measure analysis. So every time something reaches the ballot or something qualifies for the ballot, the city auditor's office is providing objective financial analysis on the financial impact. So how much is it going to cost individual Oaklanders, and how much is it going to cost the city? We like to think of ourselves as an entity that shines a light on the city's operations. We tell the people, the public, what their government is up to, how well the government is performing, and how their government can. So here's the org chart. The city auditor is, can you not see it? Well, what we're trying to convey is just that, it's a big municipal organization. The city auditor is elected, and that's not something that is always the case, because in a lot of cities, the city auditor is appointed. I worked for 11 years in San Jose, for instance. Oakland, the city auditor is elected, which provides enhanced independence. So the city charter says that the city auditor should audit the matters that the city auditor needs to in the best interest of the city. And I'm fully empowered to do that because so the city auditor doesn't report to anyone in the city administration, right? The mayor, the city council, city administrator. So we can report what needs to be reported, when it needs to be reported, how it needs to be reported. I didn't say some of the things that we did. I think I already did it. This is how we go about our business. Vision is a very aspirational statement, right? But this is something that we developed as part of our strategic planning exercise a couple of years ago. The mission actually describes how, what we do on a day-to-day basis. We independently and objectively assess city programs and services, make recommendations to improve. And then the values, that's how we go about it. So, whistleblower investigation. It's a metaphor. It's not really a whistleblower, a whistle. It's just a metaphor for describing bringing attention, raising awareness of something. We have our whistleblower program. This is a big portion our office's activities. So so the city auditor, I want to know about I want to hear feedback about everything that's not working in the city. And I get a lot of that feedback, but the whistleblower program is specific about fraud, waste, and abuse. So fraud, lying, stealing, but we get a lot of, the most common allegation of fraud is around time card. So people clocking in but not working, that's stealing company time. So that's an example of an allegation. Waste is intentional or unintentional. It's cavalier use of cities' resources, not being responsible steward. And here we talk about just not taking advantage of savings, incurring more costs that are necessary, or putting the city's resources at. And abuse is intentional. You're using your position, you're using your access, or your authority for personal reasons. It could be your own personal reason, but, to benefit you personally, or it can be to benefit a loved one, or to harm someone. Right? That's abuse, inappropriately or personally. It's a personal and intentional. And we have a whistleblower hotline. That's the poster. We have one actually. Registration does. We have this hotline available to employees in the general public to report fraud, waste, and abuse, and it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have an online report submission, and we have a toll-free telephone hotline that's dispatched, and so we have dispatchers available in all many languages. There's no need to even for us to ever hear your voice. You don't need to have your IP address, we don't need your phone number, email address, because through the online platform, you could just pick up their username and password. Whistleblowers can stay anonymous. So we have had some fruitful whistleblower investigations, substantiated fraud, waste, and abuse in recent months. Just in June, we had an investigation of the AIDS Project in the East Bay. The whistleblower came forward to complain that there were services that organization was supposed to provide but was not providing, and that the city was paying for it, and actually we substantiated that. Oakland Senior Centers, we got an anonymous complaint about a dire lack of financial control, cash handling control in our senior centers, and yeah, we ended up substantiating that too, even though it was 2025. There's a lot of cash and checks that were being handled there without the benefit of controls or rules. So we substantiated that. And the Fair Labor Standards Act, that was an investigation. Someone, actually multiple people came forward to share with us that the city's method of paying, or the formulas used to pay overtime in public works in DOT, was resulted in more higher overtime amounts than folks were authorized to get. After an exhaustive investigation on that, we actually stated that. So employers are allowed to go over and beyond what they require, but it needs to be authorized. We couldn't find any records of authorization. Neither could we. I think Councilmember Ramachandran for being a champion to see that we do something about this. And Solid Grocers Initiative, it was another nonprofit organization. So multiple explorers came forward to share concerns about services not being delivered as a contract between Salvador's part, and we substantiated that as well. So when people come forward with their concerns, we look into them and sometimes we find things. So that's our case that we make for people to come forward and share allegations of fraud. But we're called the city auditor's office, not called the whistleblower investigation office. And the audits are actually, this is what takes up the bulk of our time. The performance audits, I said earlier, we go by the Yellow Book, which is government auditing standards. It's all about making government more effective, efficient, equitable. We're looking for ways that government can just be better. And it's a surprisingly collaborative process, unlike the whistleblower investigations, whereby we're working very closely with the departments because we want to make sure that we're making that our findings are accurate and that they understand what we're finding. We're able to provide any explanations for what we're finding. And most importantly, that the recommendations. And, okay, so how do we decide what to audit? I said earlier that the city auditor is empowered to develop or to audit the matters that the city auditor deems to be the best interest of the city. And we have a whole risk assessment process, just paying attention around City Hall, hearing from folks such as yourselves, and paying attention to what we found in previous investigations. And every August, we issue audit work plan. That's what the city charter requires. And this is what is in progress right now. A number of audits. We just released an audit of 911 response times for the police department. So that is still there, but this one is actually for the fire department. So we're currently working on fire department response times and all these audits. We're very busy. So we don't just do audits, and like we're really trying to, like if we print it out, if we just had these audits on our website, the last one we did was 90 pages. I feel like it had to be, because there's a lot that we have to say. But we do try to communicate our audit findings, audit recommendations, as many audiences as we can. We present all of our audits to council committees and sometimes the entire city council. And we also, boards and commissions, we have a lot of advisory and also oversight boards and committees. Some of them are advisory, some of them actually have some real authority, right? And we present to both of those types of and to less formal groups in neighborhood associations or just RHAs, regular associations. Risk plan. Well, our audit risk survey. So I talked about the annual audit plan. We do try to get feedback from. We send out an invitation for people to participate in our survey. We're asking folks what frustrates them about Oakland, what they love about Oakland, what they feel like needs to be audited, and why. And so this already happened in August. So we're not having one. We do this every year. But if you do take a picture of that QR code, it will direct you to our contact sheet. And you can subscribe to the newsletters and be alerted to when we will release it. That's us. It's out there, right? That's not really too much to say about that. And this is our that t-shirt that you see. Oh, I'm remiss because I didn't introduce Dina Shoup, the assistant to the city auditor, and Brianna Thornton, our outreach and engagement. I'll get into in the next slide. I'll talk a little bit more about the significance of these. R2, audit recommendation follow-up. We don't just do audit reports to shame folks. Like, it's not fun to talk about the ways that the city isn't shining. We do this work because we want things to be fixed corrective actions. And so it's all about the recommendations. And so RFU stands for Audit Recommendation. So, yeah, it's so interesting. I tend to be frustrated when a lot of recommendations are not immediately implemented. I share, and I appreciate your shared frustration when the audit recommendation is not implemented. But truthfully, some of them are hard. Some of them do require like even me to confer, and some of them cost, require some investment in money, which the city's doesn't have a lot of money. Some of them are just complicated, right? So we do acknowledge that some of them will persist. We're really trying hard to get the administration to implement our recommendations. When we go through, I said how collaborative the audit process is. We get agreement on the recommendations. So the administration, in most cases, agrees to them. They even provide target dates. But then sometimes, priorities get split, and we try to nudge them, and the charter requires us to report on the status. But we need you all to help us, right? And that's what I think it was on the previous slide, but that's what the RFU campaign is too. We're trying to, so when we get through the audit process, we're doing some internal kind of lobbying with the city administration. We present to the city council and the council committees. We want them to be bought in on recommendations. We work with them to, the city council provides a critical oversight in city operations. So they have a lot of power that the auditor appropriately does not have. We're reviewing things, but we don't have any kind of operational authority. So we do our part in trying to get the audit's recommendations. But I think that the people, this is the AI generated image. These are not really our green or blue shirts, that's AI generated. But we are really leaning on people to lean on the city administration, lean on council members. Or just maybe I shouldn't even say lean, but remind them that there's recommendations out there that we care about and they need to be implemented. And so this campaign, we're trying to bring awareness to recommendations, try to rally members of the public to remind and to show up even at the council meetings and the community. We're going to be presenting our food for a period ended June 30th, 2025 at the city council meeting. And we're trying to, there's a lot of hashtags here, I'm really close to it too. But we are experimenting with different ways to get people's attention. So that's what you have there, WTH, what the heck is awesome. And we also, like the middle image kind of shows, we're trying to provide education, like maybe a little bit of redundancy. So we have a lot of reports. And maybe if we can communicate what we're about in our work in different mediums, it will reach a wider audience. That's the QR code, the same one. Now that I talked about RFU, I will say just a little bit of a teaser. Well, actually, it's not a teaser because our audit recommendation follow-up for the period ended June 30th, 2025 is on our website, oaklandauditor.com. For the first, we have 60% of the audit recommendations have been implemented. So that's great news. They're not being ignored, right? There has been some progress made. We've given a green ribbon to the Housing and Community Development Department. A lot of recommendations from our 2022 audit of homelessness services. Very difficult recommendations. A lot of those were implemented. So I think that was fantastic. Still a lot of work to do. Okay, and near the end. So the city auditor also has some appointments to oversight and advice. That was oversight and advisory roles within the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, the Public Ethics Commission, and the Budget Advisory Commission. And we are recruiting our a Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Please see me if you're interested, or you know anyone in the cannabis industry who might be interested in important oversight role. Thank you.
That was a wonderful breakdown of
how our city auditor's office really starts to work for us in our interests, really making sure that what we vote for really happens. I know I talked to some of our community members before about accountability, and we're always looking to see like, okay, I voted for it, what happened? What were the outcomes? Did we reach our goals? Did we make our target measures? And who's falling short? And how do we move money to those who are making a difference and making that impact? You all have in front of you at the tables in the center note cards where you can start to write questions about the process, about the type of audits that are coming. Maybe there was an audit you saw, I know there was one that excited me. But maybe you want to have a little more information on. We're gonna open up a Q&A session, and I want to make sure that I get a chance to come around and grab your questions, and make sure that your questions either get asked individually or as a group if they need, together have a total question for some commission when they all come together.
I'll be brief. Hi everyone, it's good to see you all. I just want to give RHA a huge shout out for all the things you do. Give yourselves a huge round of applause. I am very bad at keeping plants alive, but I have 2 from a previous plant share currently still alive in my house. I think it's an incredible event, as is all the things that you do. Hosting a single concert or a single film screening is work. Hosting a whole summer full of those events, that's a lot of work and a lot of volunteer spirit that really goes into making this community so beautiful. And I never pick favorite neighborhoods, but I will say this is hands down one of the most organized neighborhood associations when it comes to community engagement, positive spirit events, and getting people involved and, shifting from complaining, which is very much a thing that folks do. I do all the time too, but into action of some kind. So I really appreciate that. And it's the kind of thing that makes our job on council and in leadership easier as well, because the more active neighborhoods are, the more they can spread the word about ways to get involved, good things going on the city, and also share with us in our office. My chief of staff, Iris, is right over here. She is my team's representative for the Redwood Heights neighborhood as well. And I know today's conversation is focused on oversight and auditing, and just a very quick introduction to what I do. So the role of council members is to pass our budget and have oversight over our city finances and to write laws. And I'm going to briefly, and this connects a little to what you do too, talk about charter reform because it is related to the different branches of the city. So I like to describe this in terms of potholes. I, as a council member, am not allowed to direct our Department of Transportation to fill a specific pothole. That is expressly prohibited. But what I can do is fund the department that funds paving and pothole programs. We can pass measures to enact bond sales. We can do things to make sure the department is funded. We can pass laws to get to things that we want to prioritize as a city. But kind of the frustration that Auditor Houston just mentioned is kind of what one thing council experiences as well. Implementation. Under our charter system, the city administrator, not the mayor, not council, really has control over implementation of the things that we pass. And so in the last few months, Mayor Lee, myself, and Council President Jenkins have started this big process of reforming our charter, or aspects of it that connect to governance, because we're very much unlike most cities. There's a lot of cities that have a strong mayor system or a strong council system, which is known as council manager system. We have a hybrid that doesn't always work. And this was implemented in 1998 under Jerry Brown, and there's some pros and cons, but what worked for him doesn't work necessarily for successive sets of leaders in the city of Oakland, and it's time for a revision. So the mayor has convened an advisory working group, and we'll be doing an open community feedback session in District 4, actually right here in Redwood Heights on December 1st. And then after that, after her working group convenes some public sessions, they have their own input, then it goes to the council to put on the ballot for you all to vote for. So then it would come to me and the council president to filter the recommendations, hear more community feedback, and then put forward a ballot initiative. But that's just something to look forward to when it comes to our structure of governance, especially when it comes to accountability. And I just want to talk about two issues that relate to auditor reports that have come out. One is around public safety and 911 response times. So we're still, as the report recently released, talks about, we're still below where we need to be with 911 response times, below state standards. There's a lot of work to be done. But compared to 2 years ago, when I started on council, I started almost 3 years ago, we're significantly better. But the first full year of me being on council, I kept asking the departments, what's the holdup? And the answer was, as the report revealed, staffing. And I said, well, why doesn't anyone want to be a police dispatcher? Because, the salary is very competitive. I personally know people who have applied. Like, what's the holdup? And then we had to do some digging. And this is kind of where the limits of the power of council members and different branches of city government can be creatively pushed sometimes. I did not have any power to do anything but ask on the dais or in emails or in meetings the police department and HR, why have you not hired 911 dispatchers? But I am the first council member to submit a public records request to try to dig deep into why actually weren't you responding to applications. And it turns out our little informal investigation revealed the HR department did not process 1,000 applications over the course of 1 year for this critical frontline public safety role. And here's the silver lining. I certainly made a lot of noise about it. We got the media involved, people wrote, there was a lot of rightful outrage about this. And then in the course of 3 weeks, the HR department went from having the police department dispatch division went from having 21 vacancies to 3 in 3 weeks. So sometimes this kind of creative advocacy really does make a difference. And, again, connecting to what the auditor does, there's a lot of things that, obviously recommendations that are not followed, but there are, not every single report, there are a lot of reports that gain the outrage and frustration of the community that lead to meaningful change. And I think that's kind of the benefit of a lot of this. Prior to being on city council, I served as a commissioner on the Public Ethics Commission. So this whole concept of let's dig into the issues that are wasting our money is of utmost importance. It is especially of importance now as I serve as the chair of our city's finance committee and am working on our budget process and how we deal with closing deficits of over $200 million a year. It's not just about cutting, how can we more efficiently spend our money? And that's where I really appreciate where the auditor works come in and all of the other oversight divisions. Now, 2 other audit reports I want to touch upon, and the one on the retail theft grant. So you might have heard 2 years ago how the city missed out on a major opportunity for a big grant. This is very interesting because that news came 3 weeks after my budget fight to fund a public safety grant writer. That was vetoed I did not get enough votes on council. It was vetoed on council. And 3 weeks later was when people were like, hey, maybe we did need a citywide grant writer. But the moral of that story is that combined with the audit report being released this year in the budget, we were able to successfully fund 3 public safety grant writer positions in different departments. So there is value to calling things out, doing things that's sometimes slightly beyond the chartered written role that I have, which is limited to budget and policy writing. And it does produce change if you work and collaborate with other departments doing that oversight work, like this independent city auditor. The last thing I will talk about is the FLSA audit, because that's very recent and it's ongoing, and we share some frustrations with what's going on. But in summary, the city auditor, based on whistleblower complaints, put out a report that basically talks about investigated a narrow segment of a problem that we know is citywide. It was a couple of years of investigation in certain public works employees and examined their overtime expenses. And we know that overtime expenses across city departments is a major cost for the city of Oakland. And the formula that was being used to pay overtime for these public works employees was greater than the actual federal guidelines for giving overtime payments. And we know that in the specific, narrow, very thorough examination that the auditor did, it was a microcosm of the problem that spans across probably all departments, because it's the same formula, the same data, the same system that's being used to authorize these payments for everyone from the fire department, to public works, to police, to transportation, homelessness services, all of these things. And so us on council, myself and Councilmember Unger, one of my colleagues, we asked the city administration for follow-up for some answers. I remember very vividly on a finance committee meeting a couple months ago, asking, okay, well, this audit report came out. The findings have been released well in advance. Have the overpayments been stopped? And the answer was a resounding no. Last week in finance committee, this item was heard again. I repeated the question. This is probably at least 6 months since the original report was released. Have the overpayments been stopped? No. This is one of those, probably more than the 40% of recommendations that are not being followed kind of issues, but it's something that we really have to think creatively on. If there are so many city employees being paid above of authorized formula, what do we do to, if that's going to continue? And there's a whole body of employment law, which is something I briefly dabbled in before coming to council, which, you know, if you've been getting the overpayment for 10 years, you know, that might be considered part of your salary now, and it'd be hard to negotiate downwards. But put it in writing that this is a new formula. So last week, our finance committee went to the city administrator and said, we didn't even get a written report, by the way. We just got a oral feedback on what's going on. We got some, so we asked as a committee, can you make this a policy in writing? And they said, sure, I guess we can consider that. So now the item will come back in I think January, where we will be waiting for a policy to be placed in writing authorizing this excess payment. And hopefully, and what we requested is not just for public works in the narrow sector of employees that were studied, but citywide. So at least if we're paying more, if you're signing up for a City of Oakland job, you know that's how much you'll get in overtime. We can budget that into our budget. We can have some expectations of how much money we're going to be spending on things like overtime. So this is just an example of, you know, a recent case that's, I think, very interesting and guides conversations that are happening on council. And even if we don't have the complete control to direct them to stop or not stop some kind of practice immediately, we can hold things in committee. We can ask them to keep coming back on this subject to every other finance committee meeting, for example, until we get some answers that are more mutually satisfying. So I really appreciate the work of our oversight bodies, and Auditor Houston has been phenomenal in trying to really get hard-hitting issues up to light. I mean, if you looked at the list of things on the work plan for this year, these are big issues involving lots of city money that people in the public are concerned about. Illegal dumping, homelessness, public safety, you know, these are the things I'm really looking forward to seeing. And then if we don't get responses from the city administration, keeping on the issue until we do, or having some advocacy from members of the public to get the kind of things that we need. I mean, I will just close on the note of hiring. I mean, we all have issues, and I think this is just one of my slightly controversial beliefs is, yes, we have a very real budget deficit, and we have fiscal problems that were not started yesterday or the day before that. These are issues that are years in the making. It's not one person's fault or two people's fault, but a lot of the city's problems are not always money. It's management of the money. It's, are the right staff members being hired? Are people being hired at all? The City of Oakland has over 400 job vacancies, and only 30 of them are online on our city jobs portal at any given time. There are real issues to be concerned about, and that's why I appreciate these very thorough reports that come out of the auditor's office, because it's easy to just blame, we can't do it because the city doesn't have enough money. Well, that's not always the case. Depending on the program, sometimes there is money. So the auditor's review of Measure Q related to parks funding, for example, that's not an issue of money. The money's there because voters are paying for it. It's use of that money. Is the money that has been approved by voters to go towards specific programs being used for those purposes? No? Well, that's interesting. It should be. And in the budget cycle this year, we solicited feedback from some of the Measure Q Parks Advisory Committee and a few other folks, and we changed some of that funding. So at least some of what we had control over could go towards tree maintenance workers, painters, graffiti abatement, things very focused on parks rather than whatever they were being directed to before that. So I've talked a lot. I'll pause there and let you all continue. But thank you for the opportunity, and so glad to be here with you all.